This is the theme of setback and misery, the key as false freedom. Select frames. His fingers are trying to bend over to grab at something. And, it's interesting what the bobby pin represents for him. Okay. Of course, it's going to represent some kind of freedom, but it's a false freedom because it's not a true key. And he's thinking that the key to getting out of his situation is to fake his appreciation, fake being sort of like an actor for Annie so she doesn't get all upset. But it's interesting. Annie is entitled. Annie is very entitled. Somewhere somebody spoiled her. And to play nice and play like you understand where she's coming from, and try to get on her good side or whatever. It's really called people pleasing. It never works. They never get better. They never get better. I don't know what he could have done in this situation because, he's basically at her, he's vulnerable. He has no other choice but to trust her and trust the process. But just in general, if you are not in a life-threatening position, it never helps to people please. People please is really a setback you are creating and perpetuating for yourself, because the person that you are people pleasing, of course, is always a bully. You're trying to make nice with them. You're trying to stay in their good graces so they don't hit you, so they don't embarrass you or something like that. But if it's in them to do that, they're going to do it regardless of how well you cook for them, clean for them, sex them, give them money, do whatever it is that you're going to do. And I wonder what would have been a better solution for Annie. I think the better key to the problem or answer to the problem was what I said about a couple of frames back, to let her read, or let Paul Sheldon read to her from his books, and by the time and then engage in conversation with her. And the reason why, that would have let a lot of time pass so that he can get better. And she would have been so distracted by him getting better, by him reading to her and engaging and thinking about Misery Chastain and what it all means and everything. She would have been so preoccupied and distracted with that she wouldn't have seen that he was improving. And anytime it looked like he was improving, then that would have been a better time to hide and function like an actor, and sometimes go into your pain moments and say, I need some medication or something like that. But when you are caught, when someone has snatched you or kidnapped you or trapped you, all you think about is, like yourself as a prisoner, prisoners, people in jail, all they think about is getting out, designing ways to get out. Now, they don't know what they're going to do once they get out, but that's all they think about is getting out. And if he had waited and really learned her patterns and things like that, and let himself get better, especially his legs, when she drove off, he could try to walk on his legs, walk around the room, see if he can get around the room, because he's thinking he's going to take this nice little bobby pin, put it through the door, open the door, and then try to open the front door, which she has, I think, a deadbolt on, but he can't walk. His solution to try to get out right now is so premature. I don't understand why he doesn't understand that. He can't get up and walk. And then if you look out the window, there's nothing but trees. You can't even see the road from where he sits in the room. So I don't think he's operating with the best logic. Using this key, sure, I would want to use this bobby pin as a little bit of a key to try to figure out what's going on in the house. And he's thinking he's going to find somewhere in the house and use the phone. But think about it. He's been here for a while now. Has he heard the phone ring? Has he even heard Annie talk on the phone? I'm quite sure that house has an echo. And he's never heard her talk on the phone. He's never heard the phone ring. No one comes to the house. So he's really trapped. So you have to think a lot differently than just thinking that you're going to use this bobby pin to get out of the house. I mean, get out of the room. And so that's something that I want you to think about. So then he's at the door and he's trying to use the bobby pin at the door, and he shapes it in such a way that it acts like a key, or it should function like a key. And he makes an interesting statement here while he's inserting the bobby pin into the keyhole. He says, I have written about this, and it's almost like I have written about this. I should be able to know how to do it or something like that. But I took it as that he never did it. Because if you have written about something and you have done it, you would say it. But he says, I've written about this, and I looked at it as he never did it. And he's actually and to my confirmation, he is surprised when it works. I'm actually surprised that Paul is surprised when it works, because remember, Paul demonstrates his knowledge, according to him, with the first book that he untitles. And this is the book that Annie is upset with because she says it has no nobility. And she argues with the use of profanity and obscene language in the book. And Paul says, these are slum kids. I used to be a slum kid. So this is how they all talk. And Annie is like, no, they don't. They don't talk like that, right? But that tells us that Paul is familiar enough with the topic in order to write on it. So it doesn't make much sense for him to say now in the middle of the movie that when he's placing this bobby pin into the hole here and saying that I've written about it, and to me that basically says that, but he never did it, and he's surprised when it works. That tells me that there's a challenge maybe to his knowledge base, a challenge to his authority, because this should be, if being a slum kid is second nature to him, then and he's saying that he has written about this, then this should be second nature to him. When he looks at the when he hears the lock turning in the door, his face is actually surprised. And so let's look at that. So he continues to push it in to try to make it work, try to open the door. And this is the part where he's saying that, come on, I've written about this. It's almost like him saying it is trying to get the lock to work a lot faster. And then this is where he's actually surprised. And again, I don't understand why he would be surprised at something that he has written about. And so I guess in some ways, not everything we have written about reflects direct experience. He might have heard about it and put it in his book as one tool to use for a character, but I thought he had more credibility when he was talking about the other book and saying that that these are slum kids and he used to be a slum kid and this is how they talk. And that is direct experience with the topic, with himself, that shows a lot of credibility. So then you have to think, then, if Annie is so familiar with his biography, or some aspect of his biography, why doesn't she know the fact that he was a slum kid? So are those interviews missing as well, where he talks about his background? Or does Annie just merely have a select memory of things she only cares about that are important, that she might have read that he was a slum kid, or came back from or came from economically depressed origins, and decided to just ignore it. Either way, that's something that we don't know um, through the eyes of Annie or through the eyes of the camera, right? And so then it opens. He's able to open the door, and it is a strain to try to pull back the wheelchair to then try to open the door. Because this is really no different than when we are in physical setbacks or any other type of setbacks, that there is a strain to sort of pull ourselves back in order to leave, pull ourselves back in order to move forward, right? That if you are in a financial setback, as many people are going to experience as a result of the pandemic, you're almost going to have to go backwards in order to go forwards, right? That you lost your job, or you lost access to money, or you couldn't get unemployment or something like that. You didn't get your stimulus check, or you did get your stimulus check and it's all gone. And then you have rent, people who could not pay rent and mortgage, and then you have the eviction moratoriums. It's so much. And so the system is going to have to take a step backwards in order to move forward. And we are just still fresh out of the recent recession that many of us experienced, a downturn. I lost my job. I became homeless. I couldn't make a whole lot of money. I did some freelance that I probably didn't make more than $300 a month. And I had to live with my mother and stepfather, and then I had to go in and out of shelters, and it was just a mess. And I didn't really return to work. I lost my job in 2008, and I didn't return to work with an employer until 2013. So it was just a mess, And so out of 2013, I've been teaching, and I've been on the very same job, and I was affected by the pandemic. I lost hours, and I lost teaching classes, things like that. But I've been able to maintain, I haven't had to be homeless again or anything like that. And so, but financially, I had to take a financial hit that even though I'm able to pay my rent and food and things like that, I've had to select credit cards and other types of bills, which ones I'm going to pay, And so now I have taken a financial hit, second time in my life, that I'm going to have to go backwards in order to move forward. So this is what you see, because remember, he's in a setback, right? He's having to move backwards or move the wheelchair backwards and to open the door in order to move forward. And so then he looks throughout the house, right? It's the light that you see here is a lot different from the light that's in the room. That somehow the light has increased as a result of him coming outside of the room, even though he is exposed to that big window, and you can see in the background the light that comes from that window. But it seems like in him coming through the door, and remember, the door, the people go in and out, go back and forth in life, and he's making decisions, and he's met with light. I think the light coming in the way that we see here, it's sort of like the light or understanding coming in, understanding of Annie, understanding of her house, understanding of his situation, that Paul is about to see a lot more than what he first understood about Annie. Now, in this first trip outside of the room, he's only going to get an opportunity to explore. He's going to go through the living room. He's going to mess up and hit one of the little coffee tables that houses that is holding penguin figurines, and it's going to almost fall on the floor, and he's going to catch it. But then when he puts it back on the table, he puts it back in the wrong way. And the thing about Annie knows her house. Even the little figurines on the table mixed in with all of the other stuff that Annie has in that living room, she still knows her house. Now that's something that you could look at it in terms of applying it to sort of like the contrast. She knows nursing in terms of the practice of it, but she doesn't have the passion. But she doesn't know writing, and she's acting like an expert when she's forcing Paul to rewrite his book. So this light coming in is not to be taken lightly, so to speak, because there's a lot of light. Whatever light that he got while he was in a room is he's entering a brighter light that's going to show him a lot more. So then he tries the door, of course, and there's I think a deadbolt on it, and he can't open the door from the inside. So that means that Annie has the key from the outside. I mean, the key for the inside and the key from the outside. That only Annie has the key, and that's contrast to the key, the little key, pseudo key that he uses with the bobby pin. That he can use that key to get out, but he get out of the room, but he can't use that little key to get out of the house. That's why I say Paul trying to get out and escape is so premature, because he can't even walk on his legs. And it would have been better for him to learn Annie's patterns so that he could practice moving about. So then you can say that Paul misses opportunities in his hastiness and his eagerness and his enthusiasm to try to get out, to want to get out. He misses the most obvious. When he's writing, well, the most obvious is to practice getting up, right? Because remember, when he tried to get up the first time and get out of the bed, he ended up falling on his legs and falling on the floor. And then he ended up having to crawl. So he's not practicing getting up on his legs and walking about. And that's something that is interesting, that Rob Reiner, the director, never shows him trying to walk about. Even he's really immobilized pretty much the whole film. Only when he comes out of the cabin, out of that lodge room, and throws that snowball is he up on his legs. And then at the end of the movie, when he's walking with a cane to the restaurant to talk to the agent, those are really the only two times that he's really on his legs. The whole movie he's actually immobilized. So then I would think he would have wanted to try to practice that. Towards the end of the film, when he's practicing, I mean, when he's writing and when he's in his room by himself and he's practicing raising up the typewriter as if it's like a weight to get his arms stronger. But I just think I think he misses the obvious. So we have here Paul in his need to basically explore his surroundings. You know, he's been cooped up in that room for a long time. And so now he is interested in moving about the house. And so he's opening this door, and, you know, it is a risk. Coming out of his room to go into the house and move about the house without real detection is a risk. And when he decides to exit one room to enter another, he doesn't know what he's going to run into. And just because Annie has driven off, do we fully know that Annie is not around somewhere, you know, not around, maybe testing to see if he can move about? But we're not going to know that until much later, when she discovers, by telling him, when she discovers that he has been leaving his room. So he's about to enter this living room, and it's not really clear what kind of face he's giving, other than just, I guess, an interested face. But it says a lot about his willingness to try to exit his current condition. So here's the living room, and we see Annie's taste, you know, in furniture and in different items in the living room. But what is most of interest to Paul is this phone. And of course it's going to be of interest, right? But as I noted, he has never heard Annie talk on the phone. He has never heard Annie. I mean, even if Annie didn't have friends or girlfriends or family, I mean, there's nothing in her to call the sheriff and ask a question or call the general store to see if the book has come in. And she's never heard off camera talking on the phone, nor is the phone ringing off camera. So when he goes to look at this phone, whatever logic in his head that should actually assess the situation more is just not there. When you're trying to get out, you don't think logically. You think maybe strategically, but you don't think logically. You don't sit back and really reflect on it. He was lying in that bed the whole time, and he never reflected on the idea that the phone never rung in the house, or the idea that Annie actually left the house to go get the book, right? Or that Annie never called the hospital or anything like that, right? And she's saying that the phone lines are down, but she's been able to move about, so the phone lines have to be up. And so then he makes his way over to that table and tries to dial, of course, and notices that there isn't anything in the phone. And so you have to wonder, Annie is isolated in this house on the Wilkes farm and no phone. I mean, it's just essentially there for decoration. And so then you have to wonder who else lived in that house with Annie, and maybe she trapped that person too. And I believe it's her husband, and made it possible for him not to get to the phone to make a call. Because who in the world takes out the contents of a phone? I mean, don't you need the phone for yourself? Anything could happen to you individually. If you never even met Paul Sheldon or rescued him, you yourself could run into issues, and you don't want to have a phone to call somebody, right? What if you had a heart attack? What if you had a slip and fall and you don't have a phone? And so the phone connects you to the outside world, connects you to outside of that house. If something ever happened to you, there's no telling when someone would come. And I just think that's very strange. I don't know if that's a mental issue that she has. Maybe she doesn't want to hear the phone. It could be when she was going through a lot of the things that she was going through that we will see later, being charged with murder, and then the case gaining state attention, maybe national attention, that reporters were calling the house. And I'm the kind of person, I don't want to hear that ringing all the time. Even on my regular cell phone, I will have a do not disturb message activated, because I can't stand to hear all of that, all of the vibrating and the phone calls or whatever. I just can't stand to hear it. And so Annie, is something in her that she doesn't want to hear. The phone, again, is a phone to the outside world, and it's something that she doesn't want to hear. And we don't know really what that is. All we can basically do is just surmise that Annie just is so isolated to the point that she doesn't want to even talk on the phone. And I'm kind of like that too. I don't want to talk on the phone either. But I do know enough to know that I need to have something accessible just in case something happened to me in the house. So if she's not, if the phone is the bridge to the outside world, and you gain insight from the outside world, or you gain direction, or you gain instruction or something like that, what is she failing to adhere to? What is she not wanting to hear? It's just weird. It's weird. And so, of course, he recognizes the phone doesn't work, right? Looking at the phone, and which causes him to really be alarmed. And even he is wondering. I'm quite sure he's wondering. He calls her, I think, a crazy bitch or something. And I think that's maybe the first time that we actually get a window into Annie's mind. Everything that she's been doing has been some kind of reflex, feeling triggered, some sort of response. But now I think we get a little bit of a window into her mind, right? A door into her mind. And so that's also interesting. So then we have a cut to Annie now coming from the general store. And so remember the difference between the first box of paper that she bought and brought home, and how fancy it looked. And she said hers cost the most. Well, look at this paper now that I mentioned earlier, that this is wrapped in regular paper and it's not as fancy. It's just regular typing paper that could actually tear. When she tries to go up the stairs of her house and then she drops one of them, it actually tears. And so this is not that fancy. And now she is forced to basically come up under his standard, right? Because she could have told Paul, well, just type on that paper. I mean, it's still paper. No, she went on ahead and adhered to his standard of better paper, that paper that does not smudge. So Annie drives off, and it's kind of reminiscent a little bit of Paul backing up in the wheelchair to move forward, right? So she has to back up to move forward. And this is sort of like her, if she wants the book written, she's going to have to do what she got to do, even if that means taking an extra trip into town and getting the paper that Paul wants. And so in some ways, this is Annie acting like a wife, a regular captor, if you can call her that, would not be so acquiescent, would not be so a person that would just do what the other person says, right? After all, I'm holding you captive. Why would I need to go on ahead and satisfy you? And so I thought this image, this screenshot of Paul, looking at Paul from the window, it's almost like someone is outside looking at him. Now, we know it's the director, the cameraman, but it's almost like as the viewing audience, we are sort of like representative of the fourth wall. We are looking at him try to figure out his way, what he's going to do. He doesn't know what he's going to do, and he doesn't fully know the house as much as he would like. And I thought that was an interesting angle to look at him from the outside. I also think that the panes on the window, to me, represent bars of a prison, and that he's in prison in this room or in this house until he can design a strategy to exit it. Now, this is one of probably multiple strategies that he will try to use. First, the use of the bobby pin, and then now using the wheelchair to explore the house, right? And then, of course, the ultimate strategy is actually writing the book and hoping that he will be able to exit. So right before he puts the penguin back on the table, he was rolling the wheelchair, and the wheelchair actually hit the table, and this penguin fell off. And the panic in him caught the penguin, because once the penguin hits the floor, it's going to be shattered into pieces, and that means that those pieces would reveal that Paul had been out of the room. Well, the fact that he turned the penguin towards the other animal figurines is already revealing that he's been out of his room. So in his way of trying to prevent Annie from knowing that he has actually left the room, he's already told on himself. So Paul is, and you see that view of the penguin with all of the other animals. So that means he doesn't know Annie's house. He doesn't know her strategy. He's trying to move about as if if he is much more, strategic than Annie, but he needs to watch what he's doing. Annie has a structure to her house. She has a decoration. It's not all, cohesive, but it's her decoration. And the way that she organizes and strategizes and structures her house has meaning for her. That's why she understands and sees and knows that the penguin should be facing the same direction the other animal figurines are facing. All right, like, subscribe, and visit. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for more discussions. You can visit my YouTube channel for further film analysis. It's Favorites Film Analysis as the title of the channel. You can always send me an email and ask me a question, reginayfavorites@yahoo.com. My Overcoming Setback, 5 Keys for Entering and Exiting Correction book will become available around October 2021. I'm still doing some editing. The book does not focus on film analyses, but I use the content that I created for the book to support my my perceptions of setback used as a theme in select films. So when the book becomes available, I will send out a notification video, audio. Thank you very much for visiting the channel.